Hi Dragons, we're back with page 26. What's my inverse? If you just completed page 25, you know that there are opposite operations that undo one another. Well, in order to determine which operation to use when solving equations, you have to know the inverse. Let's take a look at this closer. For each problem, identify the operation that is present and then the inverse operation needed to solve the equation or inequality. The first one has been done for us. Let's take a look here that 3x equals 9. 3 and x have what relationship? Multiplication. The inverse of multiplication, the opposite, is division. Remember, inverse operation is the opposite operation that would be required to undo it. Now, 6 plus y equals 12. The relationship here, addition. What would be the inverse of that? What is the opposite of addition? Subtraction. Now that you see the flow of this, pause the video and give it a try. Alright, now I'm going to continue with the answers. V minus 4 is less than or equal to 7. Well, I see subtraction as my beginning point. So, to undo that, I'd have to use addition. Y divided by 2 equals 5. I'm seeing division. To work backwards from division, I would need the inverse operation of multiplication. R plus 1 is greater than 3. I'm starting out with addition. The inverse would be subtraction. 14h is the same as 14 times h. 14h equals 30. So I'm using multiplication. To undo that, I would need division. Now, the bottom half of the page asks you to create your own one-step equations or inequalities. Well, we haven't dove into that much, so I'm going to give you some. I'm going to create some for you. So zoom in on this section with me, and let's try w minus 3 equals 8, x divided by 6 equals 2, x plus 9 equals 2, 4y equals 12, w divided by 3 equals 9, and 4x equals 16. Pause the video, fill this in, determine what is the original operation that is occurring between the variable and the other add-ins or terms, and then determine what would be the opposite operation that would undo the original operation. Pause the video, try those out. Okay, now, w minus 3 equals 8, that is subtraction. The opposite of subtraction, addition. X divided by 6 equals 2, you are starting with division. To undo division, you need multiplication. X plus 9 equals 2. We're starting with addition. To undo that, we would need subtraction. The opposite of addition is subtraction. 4y, when you have a coefficient right next to this variable here, the operation happening between them is actually multiplication. The opposite of that, division. W divided by 3, that is division. The opposite of that is multiplication. Four x is 4 times x, so that's multiplication. The opposite of multiplication is division. So now we've got a firm understanding of the opposite operations. By being able to identify the inverse, you'll be able to more easily solve equations and inequalities, which is coming up next on page 27. Thank you for joining me, and I'll be back in a few minutes with your last AIM page for this weekend.